Good morning. Now, the refugee crisis arising from events in Afghanistan is heartbreaking, but it also restores your faith in human nature. Today, we're looking at how Essex is stepping up and doing what it can. Joining us first is Sidra Naeem. Sidra is a prominent member of the Islamic community in Chelmsford. Good morning, Sidra.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. What was your first reaction when we started seeing these scenes just over a week ago now, following the withdrawal of troops in Afghanistan?
I think that we were ready, really, and I was expecting all of this, and it's happened so many times. I mean, in the past, we've had so many Syrian refugees, especially who've come to Essex, and we have helped them. So, in a way, it was anticipated that this would happen again, really, as soon as I heard, what was happening in Afghanistan.
So you were quite prepared for there to be this awful humanitarian crisis that is unfolding?
Yeah, we were anticipating that this would happen, really, as soon as, a government, a new government is coming into place in a land like Afghanistan. It was anticipated that this kind of stuff would happen. But obviously, until the Afghani refugees come here and start settling here, I don't think we will know what exactly we will need in place. It's a very different environment here in England to what it is that they would have grown up in and lived in. So we'll have to see when they come here. It's going to take a lot of adjusting.
How many refugees are already here?
Well, I think at the moment there's very few, but over the next coming weeks it will increase, and especially in Essex, there is not that many at the moment. Most of them are going to London first, which is the capital, and then slowly I think they will spread out into Essex, depending on where the government places them.
But you are expecting more to come to us,
yes,
to Essex?
Yes, definitely. It's like the Syrian refugee crisis that we had in Britain. It was only much later on then that the Syrian refugees migrated to outer areas of London like Essex. But we did get them in the end, yes.
Yeah, I was speaking in the week to some guests on the mid-morning programme and talking about families starting to arrive in places like Colchester and Chelmsford, but of course they've had to go through a bit of quarantine as well, and there is a sort of delay, isn't there, from the immediate scenes that we see on the television in places like Kabul airport and the help that's needed on the ground. We'll talk about that in a minute, if we can, about what help we can give here in Essex. Can I just ask you a little bit about what we have seen over the past few days? The Taliban, for example, giving a press conference. I mean, who'd have thought it? But we saw a news conference from the Taliban, didn't we, a few days ago?
Yeah.
And they were talking about the rights of women, which of course is high on people's concerns for many reasons. They were keen to say that the rights of women in Afghanistan will be respected within the framework of Islamic law.
Yes.
What do you understand that to mean, and how concerned are you for women in Afghanistan?
Okay, I think the previous Taliban government, they were not following Islamic law at all, and it was all about land, power and money. So they had their own rules, and they were picking and choosing things out of the religion to suit themselves. And some of those things were not exactly true either. The current Taliban, according to what they are saying, they're saying that they want to, do everything that is within the religion. Now, within Islam, Islam actually elevates the status of women, and women are very, very highly regarded in Islam in so many ways. We are allowed to go out and work. We are allowed to be educated, all of those things. And we have a freedom as well. So, whatever the religion dictates, there is no compulsion in religion. So we are allowed to, do whatever we please. It's between us and God, basically. So if the Taliban say that within the Islamic law they will impose rules on women, then that should be okay, because Islam does not oppress women. And some of the things they've said are good, like, the trading. There's a lot of gas, for example, in Afghanistan, and they could trade that with the world, and that would help the world. And other things like they will stop the narcotics and all the drugs and that kind of stuff. Those are all good things. So if they follow what they are saying, then that's good. But, we don't know, because sometimes politics, they dictate something else and then they do something else once they're in power. It's usually a way of winning favours and votes.
And
but
clearly,
until they come into power, we don't know what's going to happen, really.
But from the scenes that we see, the desperation of people that want to get out, many people are not wanting to take that chance. They're not trusting that this will be any different from the past.
That's right, because they have been under the old Taliban regime, which did oppress women and did promote terrorism and all the rest. Now they are scared, because it is, the same sort of Taliban is still the same kind of thing.
And worryingly, there have been reports, hasn't there, of mistreatment of people in parts of Afghanistan.
According to that, then they want to get out, just in case. They don't want to take the chance, like you said.
Terrifying scenes.
At the moment, it's up to people what they want to do, but we don't really know what's going to happen until they come into power, the Taliban, really. Let's see if they stick up to their word, because if they're true Muslims, they have to say what they've preached, basically.
Is it up to the West to try and put the spotlight on this and try and enforce a more moderate version of a Taliban government?
The West are being very good, actually, and they don't have to do anything, to be honest, because Afghanistan is its own country, and all the politicians decided collectively to take the troops out at one stage. So if they wanted to, they didn't have to do anything. But I think Britain, America, I think they're doing absolutely wonderful, actually. It does cost money to bring refugees into the country. It does affect the NHS and schooling and council housing and everything. It does cost money, actually. And I think it's very, very good of Britain to come forward and help out within humanity in all of this. They don't have to if they didn't want to.
Well, it are British citizens, of course, that need that support, and Afghans, interpreters, for example, who have helped British troops in their work. So the obligation is there in that respect. In terms of the refugees that have already come to Essex in the past from Syria, Sidra, that you mentioned, what's been their experience, would you say? Have they been welcomed broadly by our county?
Definitely, very, very nicely. We have to look at the war-stricken lands they've come from. They're frightened. The culture's different. The religion's different. Very, very different environment here. But I think everybody's done really, really well. I know within Essex there have been English classes to help some of, the families, to help with their English skills. I know that they have been put in touch with like families of the same kinds of origin to help them settle back in. I know food banks have been available for them. All sorts of programs running, really. And some of them actually have been running by the church, which, again, I think is just absolutely wonderful. A lot.
So faith groups are stepping up to this challenge. Yes,
definitely. Faith groups have been stepping up. And especially in Essex, I've seen the churches do really, really well there, in establishing English classes for them and everything. We just had a cricket match last week, and some Syrian refugees came to that. And that was actually a church family that brought them over, to help them integrate within British society and to help them network with likewise families who are from a similar background to themselves. So the intention for the church was for them to meet other families who speak Arabic, for example, so they could mix with them. So,
what can the rest of us do, because I think, Sidra, there's been a feeling that a lot of us want to feel we're doing something, but it's just what kind of help can people give?
I think that money is definitely needed. So if there's any pots of money for the refugees around where people are collecting, we can definitely donate, because money will be needed by Britain once they come over. We can go and help in teaching English. Now, I know there was a big shortage, actually, of people from my own community when the Syrian refugees came over to teach English, because we need interpreters. You can't just teach English to people who can't speak English. You need interpreters first who can speak the language. So we will need more people who can speak Farsi and things like that, for example, Afghani languages, who can then translate into English. So more teachers will be needed in that category, more translators who can translate and then teach the English. And then more networking facilities. We need mosques to welcome them in, so that they can network with people who are from like ethnic backgrounds, who will help them to connect into the country and lead them into the right ways. We also need people to educate them within Islam the right way, because we don't know what kinds of ideas they may have picked up from Afghanistan, which was actually distorted. There was a distorted version of Islam there. We need to tell women what their rights are, to empower women again, the way it's supposed to be within Islam. So all kinds of networks, really, that people can help in.
Sidra, interesting to speak to you this morning. Thank you for giving us a background to what has happened in the past, and I guess because of the Syrian example, there's a bit of a template for those families that will be coming from Afghanistan. We've got a bit of an idea of the sort of support that they might need from the examples of the families that have come from Syria.
Yes, that's correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to speak to you this morning. Thank you very much for your time. Sidra Naeem, a prominent member of the Islamic community in Chelmsford. A bit later on the programme, we will speak to the Diocese of Chelmsford's refugee coordinator, Gareth Jones, the Reverend Canon Gareth Jones, about the response from the church here in Essex, the Diocese of Chelmsford. Have put out a statement that we brought to you a little bit earlier. We'll look at that later on as to what they might be doing. And any thoughts that you have? I mean, do you have experience in this? I know we spoke in the week on the morning programme about the fact that many councils are offering to help with the resettlement programme. They're also saying, we haven't got any houses spare, so we've got this kind of problem of saying, yes, we want to help, but we haven't got any space in our houses. Is there other ways, through private rent perhaps, or hotel accommodation? Maybe you've got some experience of this. Maybe you've helped in the past through your faith group, your church, your community, your charity. Love to hear from you. 0800 111 40 41.
Breakfast with Ian Wyatt.
BBC Essex.